cozy atmosphere today. I think these lights are gonna warm up here. Why don't we move towards the wood? Yeah, I like, well then stay where you're at after you touch that. So, I don't know, that was really quick. You ever been in a now what situation? Let's clarify now what. You ever been in a situation like in your life where something happens, it's a moment, and then all you're left with, like the only thing that you could possibly think of is like, now what? Like, I have no answers to what's about to happen, and you're like, now what? So, probably the most now what concentrated moments put into one thing for me was when I went to Haiti, and I stayed there, right? And I went, so bad idea, don't go to like a third world country alone. That's like the first thing. Second thing is like, don't be the only like white dude to go alone, right? So, just being real, they knew it too. It was really awkward. I got on a plane, they were like, what are you doing? So, the now what situation with Haiti started like before I even went, right? Like, I had one of those like feelings like, I'm gonna go and be like a hero, right? I'm gonna go, and it wasn't like me, it really felt like God was kind of pushing me there. So I was like, I'm gonna go to my pastor's office. I'm gonna tell him, I'm going to Haiti alone, right? And wisdom, right? I knew what was gonna happen. I knew that I would walk in and I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna go to Haiti. And he'll be like, no you're not, that's stupid, right? So I walk in and I'm like, I'm gonna go to Haiti. And he was like, that's a great idea, let's do it. And I'm like, now what? I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, what do they speak a different language in Haiti? I don't even know where that is. I thought it was like in Africa. It's actually right next to Florida. And then I'm like, okay, so we're doing this. And then, right, there was like maybe a month and a half, 2 months where I had to like, go ahead and find money to go on this trip. So we're like, Vanessa, 2 weeks away, week and a half, I don't have any money. I think my grandma sent like 50 bucks, right? So I'm like, I don't have to go to Haiti. It's all good. Okay, because I was like sweating. I started watching like documentaries on Haiti. It's no fun. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to go. So what happens? Something similar to this, only college students. And someone's like, hey, does Ray have any money to go to Haiti? Now, college students don't have any money. We're just broke, right? So I'm like, at least I know that they're not going to raise $3,000. And so 6 minutes later, $3,000 was raised. And I'm like, I'm going to Haiti next week. Now what? So I had like a week and a half to buy everything that you possibly need to buy, which there's no like, hey, checklist for Haiti, right? So, like, yeah, if you're going to this place. So I just bought a bunch of random stuff. I brought like a baton just to beat off wild dogs and stuff. I brought like this deep bug spray. I almost got poisoned to death with it. It was legitimate. So that happened. And then if it was like, there's, you know, the whole, you know, getting on a plane, which you guys know how I like to compact, like we covered the whole getting in a can thing, right? So like being in water is cool because I can swim, right? So boats not that scary. And like cars, they're okay with me because I can walk, you know, so being on land's cool. But like, the only thing I can compare to getting in an airplane, taking off at like 200, 300 miles per hour and going straight into the air is like being in the belly of a dragon. So that's like the whole plane ride for me on the way there. And I get there, and I just knew that it was gonna be like moment after moment after moment of now what? Like, now what? We land, right? When we land, we get into this, we hit the dirt. I said dirt, okay? We hit the dirt with some concrete on it. And you know, it's bumpy, and I'm like, oh man. And we, like everybody in the plane who has, you can tell who had and had not been to Haiti before, because the people who've been there, they're all calm. And everyone else is like, where are we? There's no buildings anywhere. There's trees. We just landed on a dirt road in the middle of a forest. And we get out, right? And you know those little accordion hallways that airports have? No, we just go down their little rusty stairs. And we're sitting there, and there's no buildings. There's no one saying, hey, welcome to Haiti. And I'm looking around, I'm like, this is crazy, right? And then the airplane, some people that don't look like airport workers at all, like pull stairs away, and then the plane just starts, you know, driving, and then disappears around the corner. And I'm like, and me and everyone else is looking around. I don't know, I don't even know if I'm in Haiti. I might be at Jurassic Park, right? And it's not funny because you don't know if raptors are about to come out, so don't laugh at me. Because I'm like, now what? And we, we're stuck in the middle of nowhere. And then finally this bus pulls up and I'm like, I've never done this before. Do I check in? Isn't there like a customs here? Or do I just get on this bus? And then there's the situation like, do I get on the bus? Do I know I'm going? Nope. So usually I'm like calm, cool, and collected. And this one I was like, I'm like clinging to people. I'm like, I hope if we're going down, like I'm pushing you in first. I'm gonna follow you. So we get in the bus. Anyway, you get to the chaos of like customs and people who are like, they want to carry your bags to the car, but they steal them from you, right? So in our, like if this happens here, it would be considered theft, and then like bribe, like holding for ransom your luggage, right? There, it's considered a service that they took your bags and you're supposed to tip them. So I was like, okay, we get to the orphanage. I'm gonna skip the whole everybody has guns and everything else that's really scary and like, yeah, it's crazy. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Get there in the orphanage. I'm not quite sure if I'm even at the right orphanage. You know why? Because no one's speaking English to me. Okay. I don't even know if I'm with the right guy. He just happened to know my name. I'm like, that's cool, I'll take it. So, get in the car, get to this orphanage. I'm sitting down. The first thing that I hear is that the orphanage director is not going to be here for 2 days. And I'm like, okay, that's not like horrible. And I'm like, well, there's a reason they're telling us. Why are you telling me that? Well, she's the only one on the whole orphanage that speaks English. So I'm going to be here for 2 days in a third world country and not even be able to talk to anybody, right? That's like a now. 20 minutes in, this goat comes through the front door. We don't have a door, I'm sorry. It's terrifying if you're me. And it's a wall, like 9 feet tall with glass shards on the top, right? So I'm sitting in here, I'm like, I'm kind of safe, or I'm trapped, one or the other. And this goat walks through our gate. And I'm like, that's new. You know, like, not every day just a random goat walks in. And the goat walks in, and I'm like, up to this point, this might just be a normal thing. The goat walks in, I'm like, okay, cool. And I kind of see something else move right behind the goat. I turn back around. The goat is like right about here right now. And there's a dude with a machete. And he's pointing his machete, talking in a language I do not know, because it was smart to go along. And I think he thinks, I don't know, that I just stole his goat. 20 minutes in to being an idiot. Now, so I had no clue. Luckily, there was like this brave orphan kid. He was like 12. He could handle the dude better than me. Like grabbed the goat, threw him at him, probably said something I can't repeat, and then he shut the gate. I was like, okay. So now what moments were like leading up all through Haiti? Like the whole time I was there. But the truth is that like now what moments you don't have to go to Haiti to have them, dude. Like there's plenty of times, like when I ask the question, is there a moment in life where you're like, now what? There's plenty of times that it happens right here, and it happens on the regular. And like you're talking about, I thought I was going to get a scholarship for sports, and then you got cut from the team. Now what? Right? Or like, oh, she was the one, or oh, he was the one, right? And then you guys broke up. Now what, right? Or you did something that maybe you shouldn't have done, but you weren't going to get caught. Problem is that you did get caught. Now what, right? Someone laughed. Don't look at it. Don't make me feel horrible. But and then like there's you know, there's grades, there's school, there's family life, right? And there's just constantly stuff slapping you in the face going and leaving you in a situation where you're like, now what? And if that wasn't enough, there's worse things than just like the grades, or there's worse things than dealing with breakups, right? You got like, I know mom and dad fight, but they just said we're getting no divorce. Now what? There's, you know, I thought senior year was pretty hard, but dad just got cancer. Now what? Right? And in these things, guys, the now what moments of your life have like so much to do and have the potential, your reaction has the potential to shape your life. Your reaction to now what, the answer that you seek, has the potential to shape your life forever. And usually the response, or the typical response to now what, is usually a negative one. Most people don't go, I'm in the middle of Haiti, don't know what I'm doing. Awesome. Right? Most people are like, now what? And there's like four main, as like I was looking over this, there's like four main typical responses. And when I say typical, I mean negative, right? And some people, like, a now what comes at them, and they lash out, right? I don't have the answers to this, right? And someone's like, hey, do you know how to, and you're like, whoa, you don't have the answer, why would I have the answer? Back off, right? You ever had a situation like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, your shoes are ugly. Your hair looks frizzled. And you're like, what's wrong with that person, right? They're probably dealing with a now what, and they don't have the answer, so they're lashing out. Another one is people, they get discouraged. You got the team, right? And it's like, I didn't make the team. Well, I'm just never going to try out for something again. I didn't make the band. Well, I'm not going to try it again. I attempted to go ask a girl on a date and I got laughed at. I'm never going to do that again, right? And they get discouraged and it stops them from moving on. Other people, they drown it out, right? You seek, you get a now what, and the answer that you pick is, I'm going to just drown this out. Like, I'm not going to handle it. I'm just going to drown it out with different things. I'm going to drink. I'm going to drink it all away. Or I'm going to party as much as I can, and then I'll eventually feed it. I'll party so much that's going to drown it out. Or, just being real, we're in high school, right? I'm just going to go have sex to maybe make it feel better. I'm going to drown it out. And there's so many avenues, right? I'm going to go buy a new car. I'm going to go make sure that I got all the friends and that I have the most followers. I got the coolest new antique, right, at Gulf Breeze. And you drown it out with stuff. And then the other one is people run away. And you've probably noticed this before, whether it be an adult or someone your age, and they run away from a relationship because of now what popped up. Or they just run away from the situation because of now what popped up. Men who they don't know what to do in a relationship. They run away, right? Now what? You've heard those stories. But the truth is that there is another option. See, I'm just going to be real with you, so hold on here. There's the typical response to a now what. And then there's a, right, it's the ordinary, the negative, and then there's the extraordinary. And what I learned in Haiti, there was a situation. See, is a mom? No, I'm just kidding. But what I learned, I'll tell you what happened. So, in Haiti, just crazy stuff, you know. There's a goat. I didn't steal your goat. Don't kill me, please. Right? Like, little things like that led up. And I'm halfway through my trip, right? I've been dealing with now what, so it's kind of like almost like expected. When I wake up, I'm gonna not know what's going on. So the now what's been leaning up, and halfway through the trip, I'm supposed to have a group of buddies who are gonna come and like, just like hang with me. You know what I mean? Someone who can talk English to me, someone who can make the trip a little easier to take. And I haven't heard from them the whole time. So I like reach out to them through a Facebook message. I'm like, hey guys, you coming like next week? You know, it was like when you're supposed to come, and you haven't like contacted me, this and that. And I get a Facebook message back. I didn't get like a call because I had like this awesome baby phone that was like lower quality than like what you would get in a Barbie case. It was like it was like made out of this stuff right here. And I didn't get anything. I got this message back saying, hey Ray, we're not coming. And not only are we not coming, we're leaving the church. And it was the two guys that had helped get me there, and the two guys that were my connection to the church, and now they're gone. And the reason why that was a worse now what was because in Haiti, up to this point, you know, I said there's some things, but it was the biggest now what of my life. I had an orphan I visited one day who was sick. I came back the next day, he was dead. I had a couple nights would go by and I'd hear this screaming noise off in the distance, and you know, not to get weirded out or there's voodoo people, so they do weird things, so I'm like, it's probably just one of them. And I would hear this, and I would go to the wall, and I would sit there and I'd stand there and I'd listen, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like what these voodoo people do. And then I'd have this like 16-year-old orphan, and he'd pull me away, and we'd go do something. It'd be like, you know, 10 o'clock at night. And it would happen a couple times. Finally, I'm like, what is that? So I went to the orphanage director. And I said, can you come outside with me? Can you come and tell me what's going on up here? I've been hearing it off and on. And my heart, when she started to talk, was full of grief, because what I was hearing on and off throughout the week was a group of men who had a house who would take women and then they would rape them and come back. And the police don't answer things like that. And I would hear that, and I would see orphans dying, and when I made that call, when I made that message, I had welts from being sick. I had canker sores on my mouth. I think I counted 11 from what I could see. I was sick. I had every reason to respond to that email. I met a girl we picked up, and she had been, at a young age, taken, put over in the Dominican Republic as a slave, and she was dropped off when she was used goods, and she was left there in the streets. This orphanage took her in. We found two brothers, I think like 7 and 5 years old. They were left in a dumpster, right? I had seen things. And when that guy told me, we're not coming to help you out, and we're leaving the church, and by the way, probably if you didn't ask, you probably wouldn't have known. The question that was me to God was like, now what? Like this is messed up. And why is this happening? I didn't have the answer. And these 4 things, I could have got discouraged. I had a ticket home, I could have left. I could have ran away. I could have lashed out. I could have told that guy how it was. But luckily, God got a hold of my heart that night, and I was able to talk to her, my wife. And he taught me something, and he taught me, guys, is that no matter what the now what is, no matter how big the now what is, your God is always bigger. Yeah, right. So no matter what the situation is, he's bigger than the situation. And he brought me this story, the reason why I told the Haiti story was because this story clicked so much with it in my heart. And it was this, we got Easter coming up, right? We celebrate Easter, and it's one of the 2 days that most people go to church, right? Easter and Christmas, and we're good, that's covered, right? And Easter though, we celebrate it now, but for the first 3 days before the whole Christ rising, it was a huge now what. In fact, it was probably the biggest now what that ever existed. Can you imagine? Can you imagine following someone around or trusting somebody and they're telling you all this stuff and they're like, man, trust me, if you follow me, you're going to meet God. If you follow me, you're going to see amazing things. It's not easy to follow me, but if you follow me, right? So they drop they drop their jobs, they drop all this, and they're following this guy named Jesus around, right? And then out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, they're like, Jesus, if you go over there, they're going to kill you. And he's like, we're going over here. And sure enough, they kill him. And for 3 days, these people are like, now what? Some of them, they went back to being fishermen. They're like, we give up. I'm discouraged. I can't carry this on without this guy. Some of them ran. You heard about the 12 disciples? You ever heard about those guys? One of them was at the cross when he got murdered. Yeah. 1 out of 12. One of them put him on the cross. Yeah. So you talk about running, you talk about discouragement. These people were dealing with some of the biggest now whats that you've ever imagined. Their lives are completely flipped upside down because of this man, and now this man's dead. Fast forward a couple of days, there was this lady, there was 3 people at the cross that were followers of Jesus, part of that group, right? One of them was the one disciple, one of them was his mom, one of them was this lady, Mary. And Jesus, he took care of this lady. It wasn't like his wife, it wasn't like a girlfriend kind of thing. That's not how he rolled. But he healed her. He took care of her, and in turn, she came back, and she followed him everywhere. And now she's stuck in now what? When you're stuck in now what? When you're parents are divorced, now what? Right? When I'm failing fast, now what? She's feeling that. She's feeling it the heaviest you could feel it. And she goes to visit the tomb, which was kind of like a cave, and they rolled this giant stone. It took 4 or 5 really strong dudes, put this stone on. They come back. She comes to the tomb, and the stone's been rolled away. And she looks in, and he's not there. Yeah. What he was wearing is there, what they wrapped him up with, but he's not there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a family member? You go to the tomb and it's been grave robbed. What that would do to your gut. Like grandpa, great grandpa. You go to the grave and someone has ripped their tomb open. Can you imagine what that did to her? And she's sitting there and she just starts crying. And her now is shattered. She doesn't know what to do. She's discouraged. And she hears this man behind her, and he goes, woman, or hey lady, what's wrong? And she turns to him, right? She's probably maybe on the ground. And she turns to him and she's speaking to this guy. She might not be looking at his face, maybe at his feet because she's on the ground. We don't know. We know that she turned to him and she's thinking he's like the guy who like the maintenance man, pretty much. The guy they call him the gardener. The guy who keeps it looking, a graveyard looking fresh. You know what I mean? That's what, you've seen him. And she's looking at this guy and she goes, where have you taken him? She's crying, she's bawling, she's feeling that pit, she's depressed. And she goes, where have you taken him? She's like, if you just tell me, I'll go get him. Like, you don't have to get him, I'll go get him. And she's losing it. And then she hears her name. It's Mary. And she looks up, and it's the guy who was in the tomb. It's the Jesus we've been following around. And he was standing right in front of her. In the biggest now of her life, he was right there the whole time. And that's what, I'm in Haiti, and I'm destroyed. And I've witnessed things that I never knew I would witness in my life. And I've seen things, and I've seen children there and then not there. And I've seen women abused and hurt and sex slavery. I've seen the most disgusting things that the earth has to offer, and I didn't know what the answer was, and it was lying right in front of me. You got to understand that God's answer to now what is Jesus. And you got to understand that you might not be a believer. I'm glad you're here. But you got to understand that out of all these other options, you will always have the option of Jesus in your life. You'll always have the option to call on him. You'll always have the option to just turn around and say, I need you. Because he's never really left your side. And that's what I want you to go, I want you to understand that Jesus is always an option. But you got to understand that Mary even almost missed it. Like in front of her, right there next to her, in her now what, she almost missed it. She was looking directly at him and didn't even know it at first. So I want you to think about these things. I want you to think when your now what comes, and you're literally saying, now what? Like if that pops in your head, if you're in a situation, you don't have an answer. Now what comes? I want you to take the option because it's the best option. There are other options, but Jesus is the best option. And I want you to try talking to him. I want you to try listening to him. Look for him in your situation. If you're not a believer, fine, try it out. Try Jesus, give him a try. Okay, I gave him a try that night. I was there because of him. I put, thirdly, my trust in him. I talked to him, I looked for him. And then I trusted him with what he gave me. And that's what I wanted you guys to understand. When we come up on Easter, and whether you've been through now what's, whether you're in a now what, or it's going to come and slap you in the face later on without letting you know about it, I want you to know that there's an option. I want you to know that there has been worse off people. And that the answer is Jesus. And that the bad news is that, guys, life will come at you hard. And being a Jesus follower actually makes it harder. But there's a joy that I have somebody who is much bigger. The problems that come at you probably going to be bigger than you. But I got a big, big God. And he can take care of it. So the question is where are you at? Are you discouraged? Have you been discouraged? Are you in a season of disappointment? Have you been and haven't actually settled that problem? And if not, good, I'm glad. But be prepared because life is not easy. High school's not easy. Think about when you leave that and you gotta pay bills. You gotta make sure that you pay for the food that goes in your mouth. It's a hard time. Bad news, life can be hard. Good news, God has the answer for it, and his name is Jesus.
That's right.
So let's pray. Lord, I pray that your will will be done here. God, thank you for tonight. Thank you for some music and people willing to lead that. And thank you for the people who came out the week after spring break when they're catching up with schoolwork. And if you're in here and you've not done that, just being real, eyes are closed, head are down, and you're like, you know what, I haven't I've been slapped in the face with a now what. I've been slapped in the face with a situation I can't handle. And I've never tried out Jesus, but I'm there. I'm ready. I just like to give you an opportunity without anybody looking at you, but to just say, you know what, God, Jesus, I'm going to turn around. I didn't know you were there. Now I know you're there. I'd like to turn around. I'd like to look you in the face. And if that's you and you're like, I'm going to give you this. Like I've been doing all the other options and they haven't worked out for me. I've been doing all the other options and I know they don't work out. Then I'd like to give you an opportunity right now just to go, I'm good. I want to use Jesus as my option and give it to him forever. And if that's you, you just pray along in your head. You don't have to say it out loud. We're not about embarrassing people here. But you just pray in your seat. You could just repeat after me if you want, something close to it. And that's just this, is Lord, thank you for being there. Jesus, thank you for being right behind me this whole time. And I'm choosing, I'm going to stop living a typical life with a typical response. I'm going to stop being that ordinary response. I'd like to live in an extraordinary way. And I'm going to give you my life tonight. I don't know fully what that looks like. I don't know. He said it's hard, but I want to give you my life. And the best way I know how to give you control of my life, you can have it, teach me how to live. And I love you. In your name I pray. Amen.